Hi, Jen.
Hi, Arash.
It's our first podcast.
It is.
It's exciting.
It is really exciting. A little nerve-wracking as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to pretend like I'm okay with everything.
I think you're okay with everything.
Okay. I think you're okay with everything, too.
All right, Arash, tell me, what do you want to get out of this podcast?
The one with Matt Berseth, the founder of NLP Logix in Jacksonville, Florida. That one?
The one with Matt Berseth, the co-founder of NLP Logix in Jacksonville, Florida. There are a few others involved.
All right, so the conversation I'm looking forward to having with Matt is I'm curious about people who launch new things and have the follow through, and especially with Matt's company where it seems like maybe he started things before its time, like he had to look forward.
Before it was cool.
Before it was cool.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about an AI consultancy company.
We are.
Yeah. What about you? What are you looking forward to?
I am a very nosy person.
I've noticed.
So I like to dig in and understand what makes people tick, if you will.
Yeah.
I want to know, like, deep in his soul, what motivates him, what inspires him, and what terrifies the heck out of him.
Ooh, that's deep.
I know. I like to go deep.
Let's do that. Okay. Sounds good.
Shall we?
I think it's time.
Okay.
Hi, Matt Berseth.
Hey, guys. It's not awkward.
Matt, thanks for joining us. You are the co-founder of NLP Logix, an AI consultancy company. Round that up for us. What does that mean?
Yeah. So NLP Logix is a Jacksonville-based AI consulting company. And really what that means is I kind of differentiate it as, we're a software company, but we don't sell a product. We don't have a product that we offer. We work with our customers to build really specialized solutions that help them service their customers.
That's great. So you're building specifically for your clients.
Building for our clients, and kind of helping them. Sometimes we say a lot of our customers come to us because they have hard problems and they need some help. And the AI piece comes in because that's a new tool I think all software is going to be leveraging going forward. And, we were pretty fortunate to be doing it for a while. So our team's got a lot of great experience and all of it will be, super relevant to the next generation of software, which we help to have part in building.
So did you wake up one day and say, I really want to help anybody solve hard problems? How did NLP come to be in existence?
Yeah. So, I'd like to say there was some amazing foresight and we had this 20-year plan, but really the reality is at our previous company I worked there as an employee and Ted was a co-founder of the previous company. And we had gotten into, I would say, and this is back in like 2010 or so. And I would say at the time, if you kind of rewind a little bit, big data was a buzzword kind of at the time, kind of like AI is now, is a lot about big data. And, there was a lot of work in the 2000s of let's take desktop applications, put them on the internet. Let's now start collecting data and managing data. And so data sets were growing. And at the time, we were doing some machine learning. I guess that's the new word for AI, or the old word for AI. But we were doing some machine learning in the healthcare space, and we were really doing some amazing things. And it was I won't say pretty clear, maybe it's clear in hindsight, that could be survivorship bias, but it was really interesting to see a new way of solving old problems that was more based on data and less based on kind of experts, which is interesting. Can dig into that more if that's interesting to you guys. But anyway, we had success there. And then when we left the old company, it was kind of like, this feels right. This feels like there's something here. It was plenty early. This is 15 years ago. Yeah.
Excuse me. So you were doing the data, the big data, the machine learning at the old company.
We were. Yeah. So we'd started, it was a healthcare use case, basically trying to understand forecasting of, high dollar claims, and what do you do if you have a forecast of some high dollar claims? Well, you start to take some, what can we do to remediate ahead of time? Don't wait for the claims to come in. Why don't we see how we can step in and try to understand the drivers of where the cost is going to be and see what you can do to prevent it?
Did you guys want to create a product out of this? Were you trying to go specialized in any way, shape, or form? Or did you think, oh, I wonder what other problems we could solve?
I would say, you guys should have Ted on this podcast and ask him some of these same questions, see who's got better memories. But I would say that, or more accurate memories. All the memories are good memories, but more accurate. But I would say that when we started the company, we didn't have a product in mind. It was more, we felt like healthcare was, we had experience in healthcare. We felt like healthcare from a technology standpoint was underserved, maybe behind, even now they still are.
Even now they are, yeah.
Yeah, as an industry,
Right.
it's kind of like there's a lot of data, technology is behind. Let's see if we can innovate in this area. And that was really why we started the company. And we were really focused on language modeling, NLP, the NLP, natural language processing. We really felt like that was going to be really important. And again, you got to go back to 2010. It's going to seem so crazy, but if you think of the data you were storing in 2010, we typically talk about, tabular data, something you'd find in Excel or a table in a database where it's like, this is a number and this is an ID for a customer. But data types like comments or text or PDFs or pictures, we stored that data, but we did nothing with it. Nobody did, because it was just kind of a pain. So we thought that would be, healthcare is a lot of unstructured textual data and image data. And we thought that there would be a good reason to innovate in that area, not necessarily in a product standpoint,
right,
but more just let's try to solve some problems in this area.
I have a burning question.
I have a burning question too, though.
Okay, ladies first.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No.
Love it.
That's good.
I have been dying to know. I've never actually asked you or Ted. How did you come up with the name NLP?
And Ted is your co-founder, because I think we can.
Ted Logix is the CEO, and co-founder of NLP Logix. You guys got to have Ted on and compare the notes. So my recollection is the very earliest days, could even be before we registered the company. It must have been, because we had to have the name when we registered the company. We were meeting at Taco Lou's at the beach, the old location. And we were meeting at the Ponte Vedra Library a little bit.
Okay. And
kind of figuring out what we thought we could do. And then we had some candidate names. I don't remember any of them. And I think it was Ted's wife, Julie, that came up with the name. We had an idea of we want to be in healthcare. We think there's something with text and language and natural language processing. NLP was, that was a term we were using. And I'm pretty sure it was Julie that came up with NLP Logix.
So you were making a bet that this was going to become something that was well known, and then everyone would be like, oh, NLP Logix. They're so insightful. They predicted that natural language processing was going to become this really cool, helpful tool.
Yep.
Is that what you were hoping for?
I don't know. You give us a lot of credit. I would say related to the name for 10 years, I would say we got a lot of NLP logistics, neural linguistic programming, which I think is a thing in the 90s. There's a lot of confusion around that. So it probably took a good decade for.
Well, Matt, what is NLP? Round that up. What does that actually mean?
Yeah. So natural language processing, I got to say that it, probably 30-year-old acronym or something, not a new acronym, but one that really came to the forefront these last 2 years.
Yeah.
And it really is algorithms and techniques to process textual data. Okay, so text data is really different. If you think of text data versus like an Excel table, there is a tremendous amount of metadata that you have with the data. You know the column name, the column has a data type. You have these things that are baked in that help you structure the data and process it. With text, you really don't have any of it. With text, it's a sequence. Like that's about as much of a structure as you have, as in the words are read in a particular order.
Right.
Okay, so it's very different. You can call it semi-structured or unstructured. And NLP is kind of a whole family of techniques that allow you to process and work with and understand textual data. Yeah.
So did you guys think you were solely going to focus
in
healthcare and using natural language processing? Because we describe NLP Logix today as an AI consultancy.
Yep.
So we do more than just NLP. So talk about that evolution for us.
Yep, great point. So yeah, we do way more than NLP, and we do way more than just healthcare. Right. So it broadened. Yeah, I would say that the shortish version of that story is we did start in healthcare and we did start in NLP. And then I would say we broadened some of that to say, well, there's lots of different types of machine learning applications in healthcare and other industries, but let's look at applying machine learning approaches to solve problems, or bring machine learning solutions to solve problems. And I got to say, one of the reasons why we looked at that was because, there, again, the Wayback Machine, but I would say 15 years ago, it was really hard to use machine learning to solve a problem. Like it wasn't like mainstream like it is now. It was like,
we're building completely from the ground up. There weren't tools that were off the shelf like they are today. Is that it?
Yeah. So like, it's a great point. Not even off the shelf. Yeah. So you have off the shelf, but if you go back a level and you would say, well, fine, there's nothing off the shelf. There's good developer tools so we can build something custom. Yeah. I would say you go back 15 years ago and there was no libraries. There's no reusability. You're pretty much starting with almost nothing. And then on top of that, there's not an ecosystem of other people solving these same problems.
Let me stop you there.
Yeah.
Because that's what I want to talk about. You make it seem like such a seamless transition from your old company with Ted, the co-founder, to what you're doing today. And so you're starting from scratch and you thought it was a good idea
to go where there's very few tools to help you do the problem solving.
So explain that. Tell me what you were thinking, feeling, what was going on with you and Ted that you both of you thought this is a good idea. We need to take this leap.
And it will be successful. Did you think it was going to be successful?
And did you feel like it was a leap? Maybe it did feel very natural. Did it feel like a big risk?
Big risk? I mean, it didn't feel like a big risk, okay? I guess, risks are relative in what you perceive. For me, it wasn't a big risk in the standpoint that, I had a lot of confidence in, honestly, in the, Ted, our founding team. It's like I got a lot of confidence that what we do, we're going to figure out. And I had a lot of confidence that this was a really interesting area. And specifically with that, it is, machine learning or AI. Like it's such a new, even now, it's just a new way of thinking. It's a different paradigm that was so different than what I would call traditional programming, where you sit down with experts and you flesh out if-else statements and you write a lot of code. Like basically using data to solve problems was so fundamentally different that I'm not going to say I would have ever guessed like ChatGPT and things would be where they're at today. Mm-hmm. But we definitely felt like there is a real set of business problems, maybe not in every industry, maybe not as widespread, but there's a real set of business problems where this is going to be the answer.
Yeah.
Was it difficult educating clients and potential clients on what this was.
Yeah. How long was the sales process trying to convince people that you guys had the magic? Because that's what it probably felt like to a lot of your potential clients and your clients at that point in time. This is mysterious. So how did you convince them that you guys had the brain power to solve their problems?
Really good questions.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Jen, I think our work here is done.
This is good. So you got to remind me, Arash, to come back to your question on the sales piece. But Jen, what you're asking about, like, how do you convince people? So one of the hardest things that I think we experienced was there was this bootstrapping problem. Like, how do you get your first customer, and then how do you get your second customer and your third when you have no customers?
Right.
And we took an approach at the time where we said, we're going to go and prove to the world that we're the best at building machine learning algorithms. And we're going to do that on a platform at the time that now it's owned by Google, but it was called Kaggle. And Ted would call that the Coliseum of data science. And I'd say at the time it really was. And the idea was that basically no one knows there's no data scientists in the world at this point. No one knows how to create these algorithms except for maybe tucked away in a handful of universities. Okay, it's kind of an esoteric thing.
Yeah.
And the people that are doing it in the universities, they're not used to working with real data that's kind of gnarly and big. And so Kaggle set up this idea that they're going to have basically data science competitions where they would provide a data set. They would work with a customer like Microsoft or Facebook or GE, and they would curate the data and they would identify the problem. And then they would create a leaderboard where you would build a model, create predictions, and upload it. And then they would hide part of the data set and evaluate. And our approach was, let's go win in that arena and come back to our prospects and say, if we can do this, we can certainly solve business problems in your domain.
Yeah, sure.
And honestly, it really worked well. I got to say, we did some medical imaging competitions, and we presented in Europe at Prague. We presented on skin cancer in Australia. We presented in Quebec City in radiology. We spoke at GTC with Mayo Clinic. And, you just compound that, you just compound that. And yeah, we were able to land deals, people saying, okay, you can do that. Certainly you can help us over here.
So you guys knew you had to put yourself on stage and prove the work in front of the world, really, to get your credibility. I mean, that's an incredible feat. And I think if you're talking to entrepreneurs out there, would you give that same advice today? Would you say you have to prove it to the masses in order to be successful in launching your own business?
From a services company like we are, I think that that's a reasonable route. I mean, it worked for us. I would say the timing was right for us in this industry, in that there weren't a lot of players. There wasn't an education to know what it really was what does it mean to build a machine learning model. And so for us to have referenced speaking engagements, you go to Kaggle and you'll see our name at the top of the leaderboard. Yeah. Like, it was a good way to get kind of that third-party verification when you have no customer references. So you have to start somewhere.
Yep. But it sounds like it wasn't too hard to educate your potential clients.
Well, so I'm glad you brought back that point. So it was actually there's two ways that was actually really hard early on. Okay. One is, if I say, hey, I think you need a machine learning model, the customer would say,
what is that?
What are you talking about? And then I wasn't good at describing it in simpler terms to give an intuition for it or why it's important. So there was the whole, you should do it this way. And then, it sounds scary. That's new and different. Why would I go do that? So that was really hard. And then The second part is we had that problem. And then there was the second one, which was IBM. We talk about this sometime at the company, but IBM, there was a Masters, the golf tournament in the spring, and there was a year that IBM paid for every single commercial, which I don't think is all that rare. I think they still do that. But every commercial was IBM Watson, which ended up not being a great success story. But for us, it was the best because for 4 days, they pushed machine learning.
Yep.
This is what it can do. That's it.
Yeah.
And so kind of after that, and then the Wall Street Journal ran a bunch of stuff on, hey, what is this? And so that really helped us as far as awareness. And then I think we were able to have success on some of our solutions, then we're able to build referenceable customers and kind of, again, compound over, the first 5 or 6 years of the company, competition wins, early customers, leverage some of IBM's great marketing and, improve our messaging.
And did you ever think, wow, we're really building some stuff here that we want to own this IP and we need to productize and start to sell the solutions that we're building?
Yeah, we did. We went through, I would say in our, we went through a phase, I guess you could say, where we would think that we need to productize this solution.
Because that's going to make more money, ultimately, right?
Yep. And that was kind of a key moment of the business, was actually to go through that phase, because I would say that I don't think we weren't in, I think we had the right areas and ideas, and I'll give you a couple examples. So, one of the medical imaging competitions that we ended up, at the top of the leaderboard on, one of the other competitors, they ended up building a company called Path AI, and that was probably 10 years ago. And they just doubled down on digital pathology, and they built models and applications and integrations and everything. And, we had that same starting point, and we had that same core algorithm that performed basically this identically to what they had.
Mm-hmm.
But it, just wasn't in our DNA as a company. And I think, going back to risk from, Ted and I personally is, we bootstrap the company, which means we don't have 2 years of runway.
Right.
It is, organic growth and month over month over month. And that's just a different route on what you can do. And, if we would have gone all in on, say, digital pathology, it would have been boom or bust.
Right.
And I can tell you, we wouldn't have had 10 years of runway. It would just been a very different kind of organization. And I don't think that would have aligned well with kind of the core values of Ted and myself. And so I don't think it would have been a different path, I guess.
Would you do it today? Because you're bigger, you would probably have more of a long runway if you wanted to, if you had a product where you thought, you know what, we could take this to market.
It's really interesting because I have so much fun doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
That it's hard for me, because I think once we realized that we should stop thinking about building products for NLP Logix. We should start focusing on building products for our customers.
Right.
That to me was a big unlock because.
Sorry, no, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it just dawned on me. You say you don't have products, but you have patents.
Yep. Yeah, I can talk about that. So the patents, actually, I think we have 5 patents now. So 3 of the patents.
And some are in the works, right?
Yeah. I think we have 4 awarded, 5 awarded, and 1 pending. But the initial ones really came out of a product. So we had it's something. It was a great piece of software. It was. You want to talk about ROI for a customer? It was a system, a healthcare that helped them basically digitize medical claims, and their metric for them was they could have one of their team members digitize 20 claims in an hour. And we were able to help them get that to 85 while maintaining their.
Incredible.
It was incredible, and then they could take on more volume, and they had all this flexibility as a business. So the technology around that, which actually piggybacked on top of some of the same approaches we used for the medical imaging, the pathology case, and we put patents around that. And actually, the patents are very relevant today. They're really pretty cool.
Yeah.
But we did that because we were thinking, let's productize this. Yeah. Yep. And the reality is that, there really wasn't a market for kind of what we had broadly, I think. So it didn't really fit. Yeah.
Fast forward to today. You have about 100 employees. How many employees are there in your company?
We've got 150 team members.
Okay.
Yep. So mostly here in Jacksonville. We've got some in Texas. We got some throughout the U.S. And then we have some in Central America and Europe and
you have clients from all over the
Asia.
country, I imagine.
We have clients all over the country.
Yeah.
Yep.
Talk to me about how, for you personally, how leadership changed for you as your company grew.
Oh, it's great. I would say a few things I think about a lot of times is, when we were small, there was a lot of, doing yourself and dragging things across the finish line at times because there's no one else to do it.
Wearing multiple hats.
Hats.
Yeah.
Yep. But one of my biggest takeaways is, and something that I love with our team, is that, and it took me too long to figure this out, is that there is a lot of different ways to solve the same problem. And my insight is some of the best ways, almost always the best ways, are not the ways that I envision. And that is, it just there's lots of ways to approach any problem. And that's why the allowing for creativity and hearing all the ideas and trusting ones that maybe aren't 100% yours. I also feel
was that an uphill battle for you to be able to say, it's not my approach, but this may be a better approach? Or was it fairly easy for you?
I don't know if I saw it as a battle. I don't know. I think maybe the light, I'm trying to get that, the light bulb went on. It was like on off for me. It was like, wow, okay. There's lots of ways to do things. And maybe for too long, it was kind of like, well, wait a second, this isn't how I would do it. Let's dig in there.
You challenged initially.
I think my team would say that I was probably very challenging for a number of projects, and then you realize that there's just lots of different ways of doing things, and that's good. All with trade-offs. Like, that's something I love about software is you can be so creative that with problem solving that all the trade-offs are just multidimensional. It's not just this one's better because it's more accurate, but maybe it costs twice as much to run. Like, you gotta take the whole picture into consideration.
And it feels like this conversation, what we're talking about right now, is even more important, I think, in today's landscape. I mean, look at the tools, look at the technology, look at how fast it's evolving. So how do you balance the use of these solutions and knowing how your employees are coming up with the right solutions? How are you creating that safety for your customers to ensure we're doing things responsibly, we're doing things in the most ethical manner, and we're solving things in the most efficient? Because, I mean, everyone's dollars are at stake here. So you don't want to go down this looks like a really cool solution, but it's the most costly. So is it the most effective solution? And it might be, but how do you be a leader in today's incredibly fast-paced innovation and be able to solve these problems the right way?
And it's really challenging at the pace of innovation. I would say it's also really challenging because the right way could change underneath you mid-project.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen that happen
We
a
did
couple
see
of
that happen.
times where we've built something, we've spent time, a year potentially, creating a solution,
Yep.
and then all of a sudden something out of the box
Yep.
is now available.
And I think that'll happen more and more, honestly. There'll be just more I guess that maybe that won't happen more and more, but it's not going to stop happening. I would say it that way. So I think, and as a company, I think one thing we've really we've really matured on is just the reality of the best way is to just be super transparent with the customer
And adaptable.
And adaptable. Yeah. I mean, that's exactly right. And when it comes to, building the systems, just build it with the understanding that things are going to change, and maybe you'll be, changing this model for that model or what have you. And then just communicating with the customer that, this is what we chose. This is why we're choosing it
for right now.
And if it changes, these are this is how we're going to handle it.
I'm really curious. And I know part of the answer.
On the edge of my seat.
I know. You're an AI consultancy. Do you eat your own dog food?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, always could do more. So I think
I'm sorry.
Yep.
What does that mean?
Oh,
to eat one's dog food, Jen?
Drink your own champagne? No?
Clearly, we would drink our own champagne. Am I supposed to share?
I think where I'm coming from is, Matt talked about the evolution of NLP, and it sounded like a lot of everyone was rolling up their sleeves. They were wearing multiple hats, and they were doing the hard work. Sounds like there was probably some manual things happening. So as the company has evolved, and we are living in, the age of artificial intelligence, as the company has grown, did you guys start to adopt some of the solutions that you've built for your customers for your own internal purposes so that you were creating more operational efficiencies?
So this is sort of like the barber with a bad haircut, the great barber with a bad haircut.
Yes, right.
Exactly it. That's exactly it. Yeah. So, I mean, I think some of that is, just these past few years, I think we've got to the scale where internal inefficiencies are non-trivial as it impacts the business.
Yeah.
So being inefficient, as you get larger, and then couple that with the amazing rate of change of technology, where some things that just weren't feasible just a couple of years ago are now, some things that weren't feasible are now trivial, which is amazing, right?
Yeah.
And so, so that is a real focus for 2025 is as a company to make sure that we are, and we've talked about this, but aggressively adopting AI internally, and making sure that we're eating our own dog food, and that's going to help us get more efficient, and then it's going to help us better serve our customers, because I do think that, like I just said, really the things that were impossible to do 2 years ago, some of those things are trivial. And to me, what that means is the amount of internal automation that I think is now possible is enormous. And it might not come out of the box. Like it might be, but it's also not going to be a big 6-month dev effort.
Right.
Like there is this new area. There's low-hanging fruit.
Yep.
That I know I'm excited to go attack, even internally, and then give that back to our customers where we can.
Yeah, it's so interesting. NLP is actually going through what every single organization is going through right now. And NLP is an AI consultancy. So every organization is very excited or very anxious, a little bit of both, on how they're going to evolve their business strategies and evolve and make more money and save more money, all by leveraging AI. And we're actually going through the same things. I find that very fascinating. I want to go back to leadership. I love psychology, so I'm going to dig in now. How do you ensure that your employees feel safe enough to propose a process change or to propose an automation change? How do you breed the culture of the open communication to, this is kind of crap and we need to fix it and it's painful? Because I think other organizations struggle with this. And I think the bigger you are, and maybe I have this wrong, but maybe the bigger the organization, the more you rely on your top level management to solve the hard problems. But it seems like in today's world, people are dabbling with AI on the side. They have some pet projects, but everybody has ideas. Everyone understands the pain that is within their own job. So how do you, within NLP, ensure that everybody has a voice?
Well, I mean, thought being there is to, we had talked about an internal discovery. And I know that's been happening informally. And informal is better than not happening, I guess. But I think formalizing departments by a department and give everybody an opportunity to say what they think, how we could improve and make them more efficient, AI or not. Maybe there's other things we can do that are not even AI. We don't have to have that filter on everything. But I get excited about that. Let's go through departments, have some discovery. I also think that, and I think that every organization will be thinking about this year and next year, is I think you got to ramp up the training on kind of two things. I think that as AI becomes embedded in our existing tools, and I'm thinking about GitHub Copilot, Microsoft Copilot, even as they add features to, if it's ChatGPT or Claude, the features are coming fast. They really are.
Yeah.
And, how do you leverage it? When do you leverage it? What are the patterns just as a business that we can use? How do you collaborate? Like, how do we get the most out of these tools? I think, I think training is going to be a big piece of getting those efficiencies. At least that's what we're going to do.
So if you were an entrepreneur today wanting to start a business, what would your advice be? Build your business knowing that you can right out of the gate automate a lot of the operational workflows, if you will? Or do you feel like organizations need to slowly dip their toe into the AI world and they should establish their foundation first? Like, what's your perspective and opinion?
Yeah, good opinion. So one opinion is I think that everyone should try to develop an intuition for what AI is or isn't. So if you're thinking right now it's magic, I would try to dig into that and figure out how can I think about it so I remove it's magic or it's too complicated for me to have an intuition. To me, that doesn't mean you need to be able to sit down and build something, but I think it would be good to have an intuition for how fundamentally these systems work at a very high level. So I would do that. When it comes to automation, like if I were starting a business, I would plan on aggressively adopting artificial intelligence. But I also don't... From the start. Well, that's where I kind of like the idea of you should do it manually first once. You should do that.
I was going to ask you.
Don't automate chaos, right?
This is my question. I'm going to challenge this presumption that automation is default good.
Yeah.
Is there a sense of loss by not doing the manual work?
Yeah.
At least initially.
Thinking of Karate Kid. Yeah, Karate Kid, like he went through painting the fence.
Right.
Didn't get the sprayer at the outset. And then I'm thinking there's a difference between the automation of a TV dinner, for bad examples here, to pop it in the microwave versus
I love that little brownie.
Versus like the blender. The blender is a great tool for automating blending of food. So anyway, I'm cutting you off because I wanted to share that. But yeah, so is there a sense of loss when people don't get to do the manual work?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. That's a really good question. I'll give you my perspectives on some pieces of it. So, I actually sometimes here at UNF I've taught a class here. I teach it at JU as well, and I really think if you're going to be a developer or a programmer, you should understand how computers work. You should understand fundamentals of programming, and you should be able to do that without relying on the tools. You should have a foundation. And then at some point, as you gain the proficiencies, though, I think you should use the tools that are available, like, before ChatGPT for developers, it was Stack Overflow, just basically a site that had tremendous amount of information. You should use those tools, but I am a believer that you should have a foundation.
You got to know the fundamentals. I mean, think of airline pilots. Would we want them to only know how to push the button for autopilot? It would make me a little bit uncomfortable. So that makes sense. So go through the reps, understand what the pain is in the manual process to actually know how to solve it the correct way as well. But then if anything ever happens to those tools and you need to default back to the manual way, you actually can dig out the cobwebs and you can get back to it.
Yeah.
The company would survive.
Yeah. And then on the other one that I think is important, maybe a little bit of a adjacency here, but, when it comes to AI generated emails or things that should be personalized, my example there would be, if we do a lot of community stuff here in Jacksonville. If I'm going to invite somebody to an event of ours, that's going to be a personal email. That's me writing that to them. I don't want a tool to help me connect with people.
God, you're going to make me go on the ChatGPT rant. Everybody now sounds like AI. You can really tell. Hey guys, the jig is up.
It's the whole internet.
Everybody can tell when you just put a prompt into ChatGPT nowadays.
Yep.
And it spit out your email or your letter, whatever it is, and then you just copy and paste.
Yeah.
I mean, end rant.
Yeah, I'm with you.
It's where we're at.
Yep. I agree.
Should we go into the sci-fi?
The art of the possible? Like, where is this all going?
Matt is a fortune teller.
Okay.
And he had the foresight to know 13 years ago that the word
NLP was a really cool name.
Yeah. Where are we headed? That's too broad of a question. Jen, you have a good question around this.
I do?
I thought you did.
No.
Well, I can answer. I mean, I got to, where are we? So, it's kind of funny. I think we had our AI Collaborate event and we had a panel, and I asked the panel, like, overhype, underhype, where are we at? And as far as AI in general, and I think that my opinion here is that there's a lot of hype on artificial general intelligence and super intelligence and OpenAI and Sam Altman and everyone being out of a job and what AI is going to do in the next year, the next 2 years, the next 5 years. I think that is not going to come true as far as artificial general intelligence. I don't feel, my personal opinion.
Is he disagreeing with Sam right now?
I think because Sam said, I think the latest quote was, it's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah, or it already happened. I think his tweet was, it either happened already.
I don't think your opinion matters.
Yeah. But I feel like there's a fair amount, I won't say nonsense, but it's there's incentives behind those statements from those organizations, just as far as what they're trying to do, what they're trying to project. But then I feel like from a value standpoint, I look at all of the quote unquote, sometimes I say boring software, like the back office software, the specialty software, custom homegrown for your business. And I think, I think all software that was created in the last 10 years should and will be recreated in the next 10 years to be based on AI and leverage this new platform offering.
So make that distinction for me.
Yeah.
Like, what is the difference between software created in the last 10 years versus the same software with an AI base? What does that mean?
Well, so it's like, I think that when you think about what AI offers and you think holistically about the problems you're solving, I don't think you would build the same screens, the same flows. You don't have the same experience of a user of the software.
Right.
And if there's, because it's a new paradigm, you know?
It's not just an end user interacting with a button and data on the screen. You could be interacting with a chatbot, let's say, because most of the people I think listening to this are probably familiar with the little icon on the right side, the bottom right side of, let's say, Amazon, and you can ask for support and you're dealing with that automated response, but you have to know how to interact with it. That's very different than having to go into a deep search to find the information by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So you think, changing the subject a little bit.
Sure.
Agentic AI, not agentic AI, I'm sorry. AGI. Did I say that right?
I have no
Artificial. So AGI generally is artificial general intelligence, which is
you think that's not a real thing?
So my opinion, which we'll see. I mean, it'd be very obvious when I'm wrong, but I don't think so. So all AI created today, like to date, is based on one key concept, which is everything that is learned, it learns from data. So you have to have data. So if that's like the language models are based on the internet data, text data from the internet. Okay, so that's how all machine learning, all AI works today is you feed it data, data has patterns, data has relationships. I'm not going to tell the model what the patterns or relationships are. I'm going to rely on it to figure it out. Okay? That's how more or less everything works today. We use words like neural network and neuron, and we sometimes as we describe these systems, we call them it's artificial intelligence. We give them these names that maybe round
human
up
characteristics.
Yep.
Would you say?
Yeah, and then, but I don't think that's the backbone that is going to get us to artificial general intelligence, which would be something that could drive my car home and forecast, maybe some good trades for the market today and write an email to my mom or, like all the things that we would do, throughout the day, very easily as a human. I don't think that and, one of the examples just on, like, take self-driving, for example.
Yeah.
My son he just got his permit, very scary, but he's going to be getting his driver's license. And I think on average, it's like, 20 to 30 hours is roughly what.
That's it?
You're right.
Oh, that's terrifying.
Yeah, it is a little terrifying. But then you look at, we need millions of hours is what self-driving is trained on.
Right.
Okay. And it's like, there's something very different about, why is it 20 hours for humans and 20 million hours for vehicles, and to learn
the same skill,
like there's fundamental things that we don't yet understand, I think, about how to create intelligence.
And then think of the repercussions. If your son makes a mistake and he's backing up and he bumps into a car behind him, you got an oopsie, okay, no one was hurt.
Yep.
What happens if a Tesla were to reverse into another car or veer off the road?
Mm-hmm.
There's different consequences to the machines making the mistake versus a human. Is that some of what needs to be overcome?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is something that I don't think that's well understood or discussed a whole lot, but I mean, you're definitely right. It's one thing, like, if a human gets in a car wreck on the way home, that stuff happens every day.
Right.
If the Tesla drives up on the curb and runs into the fire hydrant, that's probably going to make some level of news.
It's going to be on the news.
Right.
Absolutely.
And the other way I think that manifests for us is when we work on automations with our customers have the ingrained assumptions that our humans are perfect. They're the accuracy of our humans. We're not even going to talk about it because it's perfect. And the reality is that really isn't the case.
Is it that though, Matt, or is it more that when a human gets in a car accident, that's an isolated event? It's not that all humans together made that wreck. So if Tesla gets into a wreck, I'm thinking millions of cars are at risk. not just
because all of the Teslas are going to do the same thing.
right.
Is that what you're
Right.
gonna,
I mean, that's
I mean,
the
that's
fear.
and that kind of fear, I wouldn't argue against that being a fear. I would look at, to counter it, I would say we should look at the miles driven and wrecks per miles driven and fatalities and stuff.
Yeah.
But the flip side of that is, we had the CrowdStrike issue this last summer, which was the same one core bug took down everything. And I think that it would be a risk with any full self-driving is, you definitely would have a risk of this one core issue now affecting all the drivers. Yeah, I mean, 100%. That's 100% worthy of figuring out better solutions for.
And these are the types of concerns I feel like leaders and organizations have around AI and bringing AI into the business, because it is still so much of an unknown of what it can, what it cannot do, and also what it should and shouldn't do. So I know we're using this life example, more, personal experience and those types of fears. But Matt, how can you relate this back to help ease the fears of the other C-levels that are out there running, billion-dollar companies, and knowing for them to actually stay on the forefront of their business, to stay ahead of their competitors, that they have to eventually adopt AI in some way, shape, or form? How do you get over these fears?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's, talking about them, probably understanding the risks. At the end of the day, I think that's what it is how, you can mitigate risks, you can ensure some risks, you can tolerate some risks, but I do think it's a good way to start it is to talk about it. And I'll give you, as you guys talk about the example with Tesla, I'll tell you one of the risks that we have seen is when you automate, when you have high levels of automation, and then there is a incident that maybe takes your automation offline for a little bit, say US East is down or something for Azure. Do you have enough of the processes in place with a lot of times with humans that can make up for the backlog? I'll give you, even going back to the Tesla, there was a time when I was thinking my son, or I have a 10-year-old daughter, what will be the last generation or age that learns how to drive a car?
That's a terrifying thought.
It is a terrifying thought, but then when you get through, well, then what happens when, or if you have full self-driving go offline? You kind of have a whole generation that they don't know how to.
It's like if I don't have access to a calculator.
Well, I'm with you on that, right? Exactly. So there's a lot of implications. I think that's a risk, though, too, as far as, great, you have high levels of automation. What is the plan?
What's your backup plan?
And what does that business continuity look like? If this has to go offline for a half a day, what does that mean for your business?
That's very good advice.
Maybe that's good. We can all just take a break for a little bit because we don't know how to do it.
Yeah, except this past summer, why didn't Teams go down too? We all had that hope.
You mentioned something a few minutes ago about are we headed towards an economy where a whole bunch of people are about to lose their jobs? Or do you think we're headed towards a world where we got rid of the horse and buggy and now we have a whole infrastructure on the car, so we could probably created way more jobs than we lost? Where do you land on that?
I think in general, it's the latter, is in there's going to be a lot more opportunities for everybody.
Higher level, right? Aren't people going to get the opportunity to be upskilled?
Well, I mean, is that real though? It's like if you lost your manufacturing job, are you being upskilled into software development?
Well, I think then doesn't that burden rely on the employers to have some of that figured out? So if they're going to adopt AI into their organization, it's not only having the business continuity plan if technology should fail one day, for half a day or for a couple of days, but also how do you bring your employees to the next level, right? Like that has to be part of the conversation.
I think so. But I also think the other side is true. I think you'll have, you absolutely will have, I think, some roles that really are
just gone.
I really think
I
so.
agree.
Yeah. Or severely impacted.
And those are probably the roles that no one wanted to do in the first place.
But those people still need jobs.
They still need jobs. So then how do we address that problem?
How do we address that problem?
Yeah, I wish I had the answers. But I think so I think it'll be a spectrum. I really do. I think in general, I think there'll be a lot of new opportunity. I think it'll be easier to do things that were much more harder at different price points. So I think there'll be a lot of opportunity. And then I do think there'll be pockets where, that's we don't do it that way anymore because we have this new tool set.
Right. Now, Matt, you've talked about creating the foundation. If you're starting an organization, you got to know how you're going to operate. You got to earn your badge of honor and do things the painful, manual way. If you're starting an organization right now and you have all of these AI tools that are coming out of the box, what is your advice to these entrepreneurs on how to leverage some of the out of the box technologies? Is this one of those, plug it in and see what you can do? How do you get started with these tools in a safe, easy way?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I would say one thing is and this to me is like one of the biggest changes, I guess, of the past 3 years, which was, and we hit this a tremendous amount at NLP Logix, which was if we wanted to implement AI for our customers, it always started with, okay, we need some data.
Right.
You don't have any data. Okay, we got to go collect the data. And then you get the data. A lot of times you had to annotate it, mark it up with the correct metadata so we could feed it into a model. And then there was the kind of the next phase. So you had to do all of that. And then what was probably fairly challenging was, there's always this question of, well, what's the model? How's it going to perform? What's it going to look like? Well, we don't have the data. It's hard to know that. We have ideas, but you kind of had to go through this long process to get to a point where you can build a model to figure out if it's good.
You don't have to do that now.
I would not start, even if you think that's where you're going to end up, I would start at the other side, which is, hey, let's assume that we can use something either off the shelf or pre-trained or start higher up. And I would say, try, prototype something, explore.
You have to have your own data science team. Are companies who are having I have app dev software engineers. Holy crap, what do I do? In order to bring, the AI into their organization, do they really need a full-blown data science team to leverage these tools that are now out of the box?
Not necessarily to leverage them. Okay. I would say the one thing that's kind of interesting is that, and to me, it kind of comes back to trying to give people an intuition for how the algorithms work, is you really should try to build an intuition. And then I think interestingly is when there's, and I think I was looking at something, Pat McGee from work was showing us something yesterday that was like, there was 15,000 language models created last year. Okay.
Wow.
So there's lots of options, right? And now it's almost like the challenge is, what is the right option for your business problem, right? And so I actually think that there's a good focus on how do you know if how do you evaluate the results of a model if you built it or if you took it off the shelf? Investing in what we call a truth deck at Logix, or it's called, some people refer to it as an eval, but some robust way of saying, great, I've got models. They're going to get better over time. Maybe I'm going to find a more cost-efficient one. I'm going to build one from scratch. I have no idea. But how do I know how do I estimate the accuracy and the consumption price, dimensions from said model? I think that putting a focus in that area, and then I think having a good, I would say a robust way of looking at, testing again for things like bias, and not just bias on, is the model biased towards, different demographics, but also is my evaluation biased? As in, is my is my test too easy for my model? Is this really what real production looks like? I don't know. So I think there's a lot. I think I would put it this way. I'd say there's a lot of core engineering ideas that I think can come into the engineering piece of building and deploying or leveraging AI. So I think pulling all that in is definitely what I would be recommending.
If you were to go back in time and the Matt Berseth of today, 2025, give yourself advice.
Yep.
The day before you made the decision to start NLP Logix, what would you tell yourself?
I would say enjoy it. So, when you're in it and you have ups and downs, that's, always going to happen. But, I think every time we had a down as a business, it was a long-term positive. I would say that. I say anytime we hit headwinds, it was a short-term headwind, but a long-term tailwind,
Yeah.
And, be patient. And I like that concept I like two concepts. I like the long-term greedy. So like I'm bullish on long-term business. Think about long-term. It's not about this year, this month. You gotta hit your objectives for this year and this month, but it is a marathon. And I also like the concept of compounding. If it's knowledge, if it's customers, if it's whatever it is, you add a little bit every day, and you do that, or every week, and you do that over a handful of years, and you can get to some really great places.
How have you remembered to stop and smell the roses along the way? Like, this has been hard work.
He's developed a model for that.
Yeah.
Well, it's just one of those things, you work really hard when you're in the trenches and you're bringing something like this to life. I think people tend to not stop and acknowledge the success that they have had. I think a lot of people have I'm not at my objective yet, therefore
Yeah.
I can't celebrate the wins.
Yep.
So how do you overcome that? Did you guys stop and celebrate the wins along the way to make sure that you didn't lose sight of all you have achieved?
Yeah. For me, I think the twice a year reminders are the summer party and the Christmas party, where we get to see everybody and see the not just the team, but the families and everything, and that's always a good reminder. It's hard to just look out and see just everybody. That's kind of keeps you in it, and remembering that. That's why we're having all this fun.
Yeah, we have to stop and actually remember it's not. I think we tend to hire a lot of perfectionists and a lot of hard workers, which is great, and we accomplish some amazing things. But then I think we beat ourselves up a whole lot and forget that your mistakes are part of human nature. It's okay.
It's how you learn
from them.
right?
That's exactly it. I think some of our best failures have been the biggest lessons, and we have absolutely come out of it head and shoulders above where we were previously. I'm definitely proud of that at NLP. So, Matt, are you telling me that when I'm 105 years old, because we're obviously all going to start to live longer with all of this new technology.
Are we going to live longer?
I hope so.
Do we?
Am I not going to be able to have a robot caregiver that can tend to my every needs, be my personal therapist, and give me my sponge bath when necessary? So is that not in the cards?
I wouldn't bet against it. I would say, I would just say this. I would say the rate of change of what's possible is it feels like it's accelerating. And so
quickly,
I think there'll be some really great innovations. Maybe it'll be AI 2.0, and maybe it'll be something else. But I think, I think there'll be some pretty amazing things that we can all look forward to.
Flying cars?
maybe even flying cars.
I'm excited for that one, personally. All right, we got if you can go back in time and give yourself advice as the young entrepreneur that you were. You're 105. Right now, what do you want to remind yourself of when you are 105?
Yeah, when I'm 105, I hope I remember this time as well. I mean, you can tell.
Forget, you do.
I know.
I mean, it's not just the old age thing. You truly get used to not having the home button on the iPhone, something as simple like that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. So, like you've heard me try to remember the last 13, 14 years really well, and it's not that easy. But yeah, it's it's a lot of fun. So I hope as I get older, I remember how much fun that I was able to have.
Are we going to be the people talking about how we had to drive ourselves to the store? And then your grandchildren are going to be talking about how they hopped in their flying car and took them to the point that they entered in on their screen. Could happen.
Good.
Well, what do you say, Arash?
I think I feel smarter.
I feel smarter. I feel maybe a little less anxious. I think I'm a bit of a doomsayer. I do like my occasional conspiracy theory. My favorite thing to tell my TV is to play end of the world movies. So I'm not going to lie. But I do feel like, Matt, after talking with you, I have a greater sense of patience for the next world, what AI is going to evolve into. So I'm excited for it, but I'm not going to think that all of the Teslas are going to take over the world right now.
I may still feel that way. But Matt, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. How'd you feel about that conversation?
I was selfishly trying to understand.
That's not unusual.
Speak for yourself. Selfishly, I really want to understand what it's like to run a business. It's kind of one of those things. It's like, is it achievable? Is it attainable for any human? And in the world of AI right now, where you can, and we actually know an organization that has done this, where you have, I think, 2 employees, and they are an incredibly successful company, and they're offering a product to end users, and most of the hard work is being done by the AI itself to create this organization. So I'm really fascinated by how the current companies who have grown up with their brick and mortar and the manual processes are going to evolve and compete with the companies who are starting with 2 employees and leveraging all of this artificial intelligence.
So that your 2 employees are like 10.
Or 100.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like, does it make being that entrepreneur just a little bit easier? And what I think I got from Matt is yes and no. Because while you have maybe the ease of operational efficiency and some automations that can be had with AI, there's a whole lot that you need to consider. If your entire company is just 2 people, and everything else is technology, what does happen when technology goes down? You're still having to do the same sort of business continuity planning. You're still having to think through all of the things that it takes to run the business. So if you were to build it from the ground up, not understanding how to actually run your business in the more manual way,
well, I think that's
could end you.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off. Or maybe I'm not.
No, you're not.
You
always do it.
Actually not. Developing an intuition for AI. At the outset, which requires
heard that before, and I've worked with Matt for 4 years now, but whatever.
Yeah.
No, I think that's really sage advice. So, but I guess my question, and maybe we can talk about this in another episode. How do you do that? I think that's the question I walked away with.
I think you start with the wax on, wax off, like the Karate Kid. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Clearly.
A couple things I want to hit on that Matt said, or maybe I wish we would have explored more.
Yeah.
There was a golden age for cars, to beat this analogy to death, where cars were super efficient. And now we live in a world where it takes like an hour to get to work, if not more, if you're driving. We created inefficiencies with cars. There was, I think, then
We
maybe
create inefficiencies with the cars or the roads.
Well, I mean, so the way we deal with inefficiency with cars is we just build more roads,
Yeah.
which I think has its own sort of fallout. And I'm wondering with the onset of automation with AI, where we're creating efficiencies now, or maybe we're in the golden age of it.
Yeah.
What is the potential fallout? Are we headed towards different inefficiencies that we should be paying attention to?
How can we not say yes to that? We have to be.
We have to be.
You don't know what you don't know, right?
Should we take the time to know, though?
Yeah, but is there enough time to take the time? And
Well,
that's
you
what it
got-
comes down to.
2 employees and a good AI model. Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe you can.
Maybe you can.
Yeah.
All right.
That's good. First episode. High five.
Nice job.
Yeah, you too.